Hello fellow booktubers, my name is Lauren, you're watching Dreams Books Courage, and today I'm doing yet another one of my recommendations videos. Since we're at the beginning of a new year, I kind of wanted to do something along the lines of resolutions and just fresh beginnings. And so for this video, we're going to be doing self-discovery recommendations. And although a lot of self-discovery happens within all of these novels, I think the real self-discovery is within ourselves whenever we are reading these novels, because they literally do change people's lives and make them think about things differently. And these books aren't necessarily about life and death, but they're about love and being yourself and just universal elements that everyone needs to be aware of and to learn from. And I really think that books are just the best way to learn. As always, there are going to be books from 2 different categories. 5 of them will be books that I have read before, and the other 5 will be books that I have not yet read, but I've heard from other booktubers, and I'm just going off of their recommendations of these novels. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first book that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today is The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. And this is one of the books that I have not yet read, but I heard such great things from Reagan over at Peruse Project that I had to pick this book up. This book is about a man who owns a bookstore. And he's a very introverted character, and the other people within this town kind of just think that he's a very negative person. But then one day, a baby appears at A.J. Fikry's doorstep, and so then he has to learn to cope with this new baby. And I think it just changes his life for the better, and it changes the community's perception of him. And the reason why I think this is such a good read, especially for those of us who are major book lovers, a lot of times we are very introverted people, and that does not necessarily mean that we are snobby or negative people. For the most part, we aren't. But a lot of times there is this outer perception of who we are because we are always in the world of a book. And I think this book definitely speaks to that, just having a balance between your introverted self and your extroverted self. Even if it's hard for us to get out of our shell, it is very important, and that's part of why I personally have a booktube channel. Then I can share the small extroverted part of myself and do good whenever I do share it. Whatever I put out into the world is goodness and it's not negative. And I think that's just a very important lesson to learn, and this book definitely teaches that. Next is the last book that I read in the year of 2014, and that is Landline by Rainbow Rowell. This is all about a woman's struggles between managing her family life and her work life. Her and her business partner have been working on this project for a TV series for years, and finally they get the chance to actually make it a tangible project. But the wife, whose name is Georgie, is supposed to be going with her family for the holidays, and so she either has to choose between spending time with her family during Christmas and all of the winter holidays, or just being at work and having to deal with a project that has been her dream for years. And so she ends up choosing her job over her family. Throughout this time, she's worried about whether her husband is about to break up with her, and so she tries to call him on a landline that's actually at her parents' house. And this landline does reach her husband, but it's her husband whenever they first started dating in college. And through that landline, she gets a chance to see how her life has changed because of her husband, and to really figure out what she should be doing with her life, whether or not she should be focusing on her family or her work. I think this is a revolutionary novel about love and family and marriage and things like that are supposed to be held sacred but kind of aren't nowadays. And this just spreads a very positive message on love, and it gave me hope personally, and it made me want to be more invested in my own relationships, whether it be romantic ones or just my family and friends. So if you're in a difficult love situation right now, or you just want to strengthen your own love in your life, then I would definitely recommend this book for you for those reasons. Next we have Love Letters to the Dead by Ava DeLera, and this is all about a girl who has recently lost her sister. And within one of her classes, she is supposed to write a letter to a dead person. And so first she chooses a celebrity, and she realizes that she really enjoys the process. She keeps writing these love letters to celebrities that have passed away. And it's just all about the grieving process with her and her sister, and how she learns to cope with that process. Although I have not yet read this book, I think that it teaches a very important lesson about how to properly cope with grief. Although there are thousands of ways that we individually need to cope with it, sometimes people decide that the best way to cope with grief is to just completely ignore it, and that is a horrible choice to make for anyone. As John Green says, pain demands to be felt, and so you should really take the time to feel it and grieve about it. And I think it has a very powerful message with that, because within the young adult world, a lot of times you don't really talk about death, but I think it is a very important subject, and I'm very glad that this book touches on it. Next we have Counting by Sevens by Holly Goldberg Sloan. And this is the first book that I read in the year of 2015, and I'm so glad I started out my year like this, because this is a very powerful book that's very inspirational. Although this is a middle grade, I definitely don't think you should discriminate against it. The main character's name is Willow Chance, and she's a very smart individual, although she is only 12. She can memorize medical textbooks, she loves plants, and she is a very odd person, but whenever she has something to say, it is always very positive and very meaningful. She was orphaned at birth, and she had the most amazing parents adopt her, but then at the age of 12 she lost those parents too. And again, it is a bit about the grieving process, but within this book it is more about the powerful and inspirational effects that this girl has after that. Within this book she says that within every stage of your life there are 7 people who really make a difference in it, and I think this book is all about being thankful for the loved ones that you have, and just being thankful in general and having a positive outlook on life. And so within our own lives as readers, I think it's important that we do have that positive outlook on every situation, whether or not it be horrible or really be amazing, and to just try to be an inspirational force within the world, because a lot of times that can be so hard, but whenever you're an inspiration to others, it just makes a world of difference. And so this book definitely inspired me and made me feel like I need to be more thankful, and I think it overall just had very positive effects on my life. Next we have a memoir that was written by a middle schooler, and it is Popular by Maya Van Wagenen. This is all a true story about a junior high girl, and she found a guide on how to be popular, but it was from the 1950s, and so she tried to put all of those practices in place for modern day to see if it changed anything about her life. A lot of these have very simple rules like stand up straight and just simple rules like that, and she did all of this to see if it would change anything about her life, and she also wrote about it, and then she made it into a novel, which is amazing, because in real life this girl is only 15 right now, which is 2 years younger than I am. And so I think that is absolutely incredible, because there are definitely not many people who can write a novel, especially whenever it was originally written, whenever they were in junior high. But I think this novel definitely teaches about the primary parts of self-discovery, which is just staying true to yourself and making sure that whatever you're doing, you just keep your own goals in check. And I think this is especially powerful if you are in grade school, because it is so easy to lose sight of yourself. And especially when this advice comes from a fellow teenager, I think it becomes especially powerful. Next up we have my favorite novel of all time, which is of course The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. And this novel had such an impact on my life whenever I first read it in June of 2013, because I had someone very close to me who is dying of cancer, and it has definitely been the hardest time of my life so far. So I read this novel at the perfect time, because I could really put it in perspective of Augustus and Hazel. I'm not really going to explain this book just because I feel like everyone knows what The Fault in Our Stars is about. And if you do not, I'm sure there are many reviews and discussion videos on The Fault in Our Stars. But John Green just said so many lines that are very close to my heart. And there are so many good life lessons in here, especially as a teenager, dealing with death and grief, but also just having to deal with these complicated feelings of being a teenager, being anyone in the world. And I feel like this novel definitely made me a stronger individual. And I'll just read you one of the last lines of the novel. "You don't get to choose if you get hurt in this world, old man, but you do have some say in who hurts you." Those are especially powerful lines for me, but I am sure they are for so many people. This book has definitely been an inspiration for thousands, and I think it definitely shines a positive light on cancer patients and how their entire lives are. Not just the happy ones filled with hope, but also the ones filled with despair and longing and sadness. And personally, this has been the most inspirational novel I've ever read. Next we have Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. This book is primarily about 2 people who just take a road trip across the country to get from California to Connecticut. And although I have not yet read it, I know it is so much more than that. I think that travel definitely changes a person. It makes them realize how universal so many feelings and emotions and events really are. And it just makes you develop this sense of wanderlust and just wanting to live and travel in locations across the world. And I feel like that's definitely an important part of anyone's journey in life, to really understand just what's happening and what's going on across the nation and across the globe. This book is important because it makes you want to travel, and whenever you do travel, it changes your outlook on the world for the good. I'm so lucky that I've been able to travel across the nation, although I have not yet made it overseas. And I think without the traveling that I've done, I would definitely have a way different outlook on life, so I'm very glad that books like this exist. Next we have Girl Online by Zoe Sugg. This novel is all about a girl named Penny, and she uses the alias of Girl Online on her blog. And she meets a guy and they fall in love. But that's not really what I want to talk about in this video. One of the main problems for Penny is her anxiety that she has after her family got into a car accident. And a lot of parts of this novel just deal with anxiety and how to treat it properly. And also Penny has to deal with both the positive and negative sides of having your life on the internet. And within our modern age, a lot of us do have to deal with those sort of things. There aren't very many books like this that are about the internet and how your life is really affected by the internet. So I think this is a very important novel, and it's one of the front runners for novels dealing with blogs and vlogs. And I definitely think it has some good lessons about how to deal with all of this peer pressure that you get from both the real world and the online world. This next one is Anatomy of a Misfit by Andrea Portes, and it tells the story of a girl who's very popular at school, but she never really seems to fit in. And the main character actually ends up falling in love with a nerd that she knows that she shouldn't be falling in love with, because he's not popular and he's not considered cool, and she will probably lose her social rank if she starts dating this nerd. I really want to read this novel because I think it is very important towards self-discovery, because as I've said before, one of the basics of self-discovery is just being true to yourself. And obviously the main character within this novel has a lot of problems with that, but I think a lot of what self-discovery is about is just loving who you are and loving the people around you and what you are doing, and just being passionate in all aspects of life. And if you don't really feel true to who you are around in the first place, then it is very hard to love your life. And I think that is the number one lesson in any of these novels and in my own personal life. Just love what you're doing and love who you're with. And the last novel of these self-discovery recommendations is The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. You guys know how much I love this novel, and although it is an adult novel, which isn't really a genre that I've delved into very much, it was very powerful for me. It told the story of Amir and Hassan, who are two boys who grew up together. One is of a definite higher rank than the other one, but they are still best friends as children. And just a lot of things happen within this book. I don't really want to spoil you on any of it because I feel like it's all about discovering, but it's definitely filled with a lot of heartache, but I think it has a very powerful message on how you don't just look at the world, but how you really look at the world from other people's points of view, and really understand globally that we are all the same, that we all share the same problems, and some may be worse than we really realize. Especially right now with all of the Muslims that are being targeted like they are terrorists, but in truth, the terrorists mainly target these Muslims. And so to act like we as Americans, or really anyone, are better than these Muslims or anything like that is completely selfish. And I think that those people who really do think like that need to read this book because they will definitely see things from a first-hand point of view. Within this time period right now, I think this book is very important for everyone to read, especially if they want a positive global outlook on the world and to really be able to see the world as it really is. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I would love to know what your self-discovery recommendations are down below, because I would definitely want to find more books like this that are just very positive books and just help you with your own personal life. I hope you guys all have a great day. I'm gonna go get back to reading.